Hey, what's up guys? This is Cole with CJC Off-Road. I know it's been a while, but we wanted to provide you guys with a little bit of a build update for my 2020 Ram 2500. Now, probably the most noticeable change we made to this truck. We actually took this truck down to Carli a couple weeks back and allowed them to test fit their Dominator system on the 2019 Plus applications using this truck. We'll get more into that momentarily. We also went ahead and installed the fabricated radius arms from Carli, one of my favorite upgrades for these trucks. So let's go ahead and jump in this truck and see what we've changed. We went ahead and installed the 20-inch Baja Designs LED light bar setup in the front grille. I really dig this setup, and to actually add somewhat of a personal touch, I had the brackets powder coated black to kind of tie it in to the theme of the rest of this build. In the rear, we went ahead and added the Baja Designs reverse lights. And one of my favorite upgrades, we went ahead and installed our new intercooler guard. This is actually the truck we prototyped these on, and we were super pleased with the results. You'll notice that most of the changes so far have been mostly cosmetic. Now, obviously we improved the ride quality. The commuter system works really well. We dialed in running 38-inch tires, did some trimming to make those fit, did all the lighting. You guys saw the video with the color matching. So it's mainly cosmetic. We got the truck looking where we wanted it. But all along we had something else in mind. So what I was wanting to do was run the Carli Dominator system. Wasn't quite available yet. Carli was finalizing the little details on getting it ready to bring to market. And so in preparation for that, we had all these other parts put on. And this actually brings up one of the cooler things with these Carli systems. So this truck had the Carli commuter system on it. It worked really well. And we were actually able to retain everything from that Carli commuter system that was installed in this truck when we went ahead and switched to the Dominator. All we were really changing was the shocks and some other little details. So again, that speaks to the expandability and the upgradability of these systems, something you just don't see with a lot of the parts available for these trucks. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Dominator system, we have an entire video dedicated towards showing the capability of what that system offers. Now, what I wanted to do for you guys with this video is kind of take you guys behind the scenes, show what goes into installing the Dominator system on this truck, what all is involved in making it work. And so what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and go down to Carli Suspension and basically go over the installation process. The Dominator system begins, we'll start with the front of the truck. There are a few other components that basically allow us to fit the 3.0 shocks on this truck. In the front, you have new weld-on lower shock mounts. Now, with the 2014 and newer platforms, actually, we noticed one of the weak points on these trucks was the lower shock mounts. Now, not only were we seeing guys rip them off the trucks, even running 2.0 and 2.5-inch shocks, they also did not allow fitment of a 3.0 shock. So Carli went back to the drawing board, engineered this super exotic weld-on lower shock mount that allows a 3.0 shock to fit at the front axle on these trucks. It's super cool, super beefy, and basically that is one of the key ingredients to making this work. They also use new front brake lines. You'll notice a lot of the trucks, especially a lot of trucks running custom shock setups on the front of them, the 2014 Plus trucks that is, they actually have brake line issues. People brought their trucks by for us to look at with different suspension systems on them. And we noticed if you try squeezing a bigger shock on the front of these trucks, without addressing the front brake lines, you're actually going to potentially rip the front brake lines off the truck. So Carli went ahead and addressed that. The last thing they addressed on the front of these trucks with the Dominator system is the coil isolators. As hard as these trucks are capable of running with these 3.0 shocks, it actually allows for a lot of down travel, And so what Carli has done here is released a weld-on coil isolator support that actually retains your factory rubber isolator, but it actually welds on basically in the middle of where the isolator mounts. What it's doing is ensuring if you're running these trucks really hard, you're not going to have the coil springs fall out, basically allowing you to really use the system to its full capability. Now in the rear, we have bolt-on lower shock mounts. It's really cool how they engineered these, so you don't cut anything to mount the lower shock mounts. No welding is required for the lower shock mounts. What they're doing is basically relocating the lower shock pivot point to allow fitment of the 3.0 shocks on these 2500s. On the upper end of the rear shock mounts, we actually do have a weld-on mount. Indexes off of a factory crossmember piece, so it's relatively foolproof. And that is a weld-on piece. Super cool, beefy upper shock mounts. This combined with those lower shock mounts basically allow the 3.0 shock to cycle correctly in the rear. It also includes rear bed supports, super key in basically allowing these shocks to fit where they go. You'll notice in this video that the rear shocks are actually relocated outside of the rear frame. Something super trick, actually almost looks similar to what you see on a Ford Raptor from the factory. So Carli really did their homework on engineering these shock mounting setups. You know, in terms of the shocks themselves, they use custom pistons, something that's also proprietary to Carli. They spent a lot of time dialing in the rear shock valving. We actually went out to the desert with them a couple times, and when they prototyped these rear shocks on my old 2014 Ram 2500. And if you'll notice, this truck's actually running custom coated shocks. So we did custom black coating on the bodies and reservoirs with gold anodizing on the ends. This is a really fun touch. I actually ran a very similar setup on my old 2012 truck. I wanted to carry that theme over to this 2020 build. Super happy with the results. Something like this is something you might be interested in. Feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to help get you dialed in with a custom shock setup if it's something you're looking to do. This should be something you guys are all pretty familiar with at this point. This is the dip test down by our shop here in Bellflower. Now, last time you guys saw this on this truck is running the Carli Commuter System. We've changed a few things since then. It has this torsion sway bar, which won't really affect the dip much. It has the fabricated radius arms and of course the Dominator shock setup. So that is going to be our main difference here. Spring rates, all that sort of thing are exactly the same. Wheels, tires, 100% the same thing. So let's take a look and see how this does over the dip. Now, we usually hit this dip about 30 miles an hour, so nothing too crazy. And here we are. So I don't know if you saw any movement on the camera or not, but believe it or not, even though the Commuter is technically the soft system that Carli sells for these trucks, the Dominator is actually softer over the dip, not just on the initial hit, but actually on the basically coming off the dip. So the Commuter was pretty soft hitting the dip, but then it kind of sprung back up, right? Because the Commuter is intended to be something that is basically as soft as possible for very mild street driving. The Dominator system, like what we're running here, Carli really worked their magic with these shocks, so they're a lot more dynamic. You're getting a lot more, you're still getting, you know, I'd say this is almost softer in a way. Not only are you getting that with these shocks, but the whole thing is composed. So when guys say, hey, you know, I saw those videos on YouTube of the trucks jumping, this and that, I don't need that for my truck. That's not necessarily all the Dominator kit's doing. It's actually a heck of a lot softer just in regular everyday situations. Like right now we're going over this little drainage ditch. Cab barely moves. So super cool setup for that. And this is really just a testament to how much time Carli puts into the R&D process tuning these shocks. We get a lot of people asking us how these Dominator systems compare to, say, the old Carli Unchained system or the old Dominator systems, or the bypass shock kits that they used to sell for the older Rams. And just like these trucks themselves, these systems have become more refined. So as Carli was initially Designing all these systems, prototyping them, their core audience was guys going to the desert and basically running the heck out of these trucks. As times changed, as the market grew, and all these fancy new trucks came out, things kind of changed, and the market kind of dictated something that was more of a daily driver friendly setup that you could still take out on weekends and have fun with, right? So you tow your trailer with the truck, unhook from the trailer, go putt around, do some high-speed off-road. And basically what they were going for with these systems is a more of an all-around functional system that does everything. So I can still go out, you still do a weekend in the desert, still have a great time. But then if I take this thing to dinner on a Friday night with my wife, it rides great. This truck gets compliments all the time. We have passengers in the back. Everyone says, "Man, this thing's soft," and these are people who aren't even familiar with lifted trucks. Again, these Dominator systems, these higher end Carli kits they offer now really do, I'd say, break the stereotype, not only that lifted trucks have to ride poorly, but also that off-road capable suspension systems are only capable of doing off-road things, right? This system's super smooth, and so what Carli's done with these shocks is the initial part of the shock, as it compresses, it's very light, but as the shock compresses further, it ramps up. So what you're getting is something that's very daily driver friendly and mile driving, like what we're doing now. But if I want to go take this truck and just rail on a giant dip, it'll do that too. And that is the magic of good shock tuning, right? So as I mentioned earlier in this video, the shocks have custom pistons proprietary to Carli Suspension, designed for the weight of these trucks. You combine that with the amount of shock tuning they put into these shocks, and I'd say if there ever was a jack of all trades system, this is it right here. Because if someone says, "Hey, I want the softest riding suspension setup available for these trucks," Dominator. They say, "Hey, I want something that I can run hard and whip the wheel on at speed," Dominator. So it's crazy because this really does it all. Also, you take a stock truck, you whip the steering wheel, say on the freeway, like right here, say just do a quick lane change, truck's composed. I don't have to worry about ever being out of control. And that is actually, when we talked to Sage Carli a while back, that is something he puts into his shock tune. That's a major consideration when he's tuning these shocks, is basically making you feel confident behind the wheel of your truck. These new diesel trucks, they're not slow, right? So I mean, I can do 100 miles an hour with this truck, but what good is that if I don't feel like I'm in control of the truck, right? So good shock tuning, it goes beyond just soft ride, it goes beyond just being able to off-road the truck, but it also has a lot to do with drivability. And I feel like they basically accomplish all three of those things with this setup. And again, I am super thrilled to have this on my truck. I don't think there's anything else I would ever consider running suspension-wise. This is as good as it gets. We've teased you guys quite a bit throughout this build process, showing little hints basically at what the final product is. Today we're super excited to show you the final result of this build with the Dominator system installed. Now I hope this has got you guys caught up to speed on where we're at with this truck. We've really enjoyed putting this thing together. It's been a lot of fun seeing the little differences as we upgrade the suspension along the way. I also hope it helps you guys appreciate the amount or the attention to detail and the all USA fabrication and everything that basically goes into allowing these Carli systems to work on these trucks. It's something you just don't see in most of this industry, and something we've been really impressed with. And it's a lot of the reason why we push these products, why we like them so much, and why we actually run them on our own trucks. Now, this build isn't quite done yet. There are a few more things we're going to be adding in the very near future, such as a truss, Carli lifetime ball joints, and a few other little tricks we have up our sleeves. So we're excited to share those with you in the future as well. So if you're not already, we encourage you to go ahead and follow our channel and keep your eyes out for a lot more content on this build. And thanks for watching. We appreciate it.